Okay, here we are. It is episode 522 of the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes the not-so-classic genre cinema of yesteryear. It is Monster Kid Radio. I am your host, writer, producer, Derek M. Cook, and this is week 2 of Lucha de Mayo 2021. Welcome to the show, everybody. What is Lucha de Mayo? Well, once a year, during the month of May, Monster Kid Radio focuses on Luchador monster movies of the 1960s and 70s, and every once in a while we might even play a little bit beyond that or outside of that range, but typically it's the Luchador monster movies from Mexico with characters and people like Blue Demon, Mil Mascaras, El Santo, and the like. Well, this time around we are talking about a movie that, well, you know what? Yeah, it's got Blue Demon in it. Is he the star? I don't know. This week's movie has a really weird kind of background, bizarre lineage, how it came together, that sort of thing. It was actually supposed to be a vehicle for a different person in Mexico altogether who wasn't really known as a luchador. He might have wrestled at one point, but he was really more known as a celebrity escape artist, fitness guru, stunt performer, a guy by the name of Zovek. And the movie that we're talking about this week is Zovek and Blue Demon and the Invasion of the Dead. It's got a handful of other titles as well, but that's what we're going to call it this week here on the show. Now, I'm not talking about this movie by myself. As always, I bring somebody on to talk about these movies with me, and this time around, we've got Go Forth in Games, Tom Gurganus. Now, he's back on the show. He's a longtime friend of the show, a great friend of mine. I can't wait to share that conversation with you guys and gals. Now, of course, this isn't all we're doing here. Kenny's waiting here with a look at famous monsters of Filmland. Now, this is a replay of a segment that he provided to us during a previous year's Lucha de Mayo. So, you might have heard it before, or it might be brand new, or maybe you forgot what he said last time. And, well, anyway, it's going to be running this week. Plus, man cannot live on luchadors alone. I know, sacrilege. So we're going to bring in some Ultraman. You know what? I would love to see an Ultraman Luchador team up. I think that would be a lot of fun. So, Ultraman, we are going to tease your sweet tooth with Mark Matzke's Beta Capsule review. You'll have to stay tuned to hear what I'm talking about. It's a fun recording, as always, and it's another one of my favorite Ultra monsters that's going to be discussed in this week's installment of the Beta Capsule review. So we're going to get to that. We got Kenny, we got Tom, we got the Luchadors ready to go. And you're going to hear it here in a moment. First, I want to let you know that the song you're hearing is from the band The Dead Elvi. It is from their release, A Taste of Blood, and that came out back in 2010. Now, they've given us permission to play their music here on the show before. In fact, we've even played this song on the show before, probably during Lucha de Mayo. It's the song Lucha Libre. You're going to hear it in its entirety at the end of the episode. But to get to that, we got to go through everything else, and you're going to get to that right after this.
Good evening, Monster Kids. This is the Count. I'm here with some friends to tell you about our favorite board and card game podcast. It's Go Forth and Game. Tom and Ryan talk about all things gaming with special emphasis on interviews with game designers and publishers. What do you think about this, my tall, gaunt friend? Go Forth Game. Good. And what about you, my undead comrade? I think Go Forth and Game is the most entertaining podcast about board and card games that I've come across in 4,522 years. So, if you enjoy listening to two monster kids discuss topics like abstract games, the best family games, game schooling, various game mechanics, and of course, monster-themed games, then you should give Go Forth and Game a try. That's goforthandgame.com, available on iTunes and Spotify.
Come a little closer. Closer. Listen, my children, and you may hear tales that witness madness. Enter an asylum from which you may never escape. Become a witness to the unknown. Tales that witness madness from Paramount Pictures. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parents.
Mother! Somebody help me!
Tales that witness madness. It's enough to drive you out of your mind and into your
grave.
No! Ladies and gentlemen, here is an important message from Jack H. Harris, producer of 4D Man.
Imagine a check for $1 million being made out to you. In my new film, you will see 4D Man perform feats never seen on the screen before. And if you, any one of you listening to me, can actually perform in real life the feats ascribed to 4D Man, $1 million in cash will be yours. Your admission ticket to see 4D Man in widescreen and color may be worth $1 million.
4D Man is the most amazing motion picture ever made. The story of one man who solved the mystery of the fourth dimension. Even in this century of wonders, when science holds nothing to be impossible, you'll gasp in awe at the feats of the 4D Man. In color to thrill you as never before, 4D Man.
Live from the Land of Light in Nebula M78, home of the mighty Ultra Heroes, it's Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review. Something gigantic is chomping on sharks and sinking ships in Japanese waters, but its real preference is chocolate. Or to be precise, cacao beans imported from South America. The Coast Guard Command is the name of the aquatically themed 6th episode of Ultraman, and the first person to spot the hungry monster is Hoshino's friend Chiro, who glimpses a creature in Yokohama Bay through binoculars, but unfortunately, no one believes him. Hoshino has spotted a monster of another kind, a criminal nicknamed Diamond Kick, hanging around the docks. Hoshino phones Science Patrol headquarters, but is brusquely blown off by Arashi. A friendly sailor teaches Hoshino and friends about an amphibian species called Gesra that are said to protect cacao beans from pests, when suddenly a titanic Gesra appears and proceeds to destroy the cargo ship Columbia. Chiro suggests checking the cacao bean warehouse for possible baby Gesras, and the kids investigate, only to run into Diamond Kick, who's expecting to find smuggled diamonds in a cacao bean sack. Because Hoshino recognizes him, Diamond Kick takes the youngsters hostage. At the very moment, the Science Patrol and Gesra both arrive at the waterfront. Things look dire when Hayata is pinned under falling debris with his Beta Capsule just out of reach. The elements of the show really gel in Episode 6. The script skillfully intertwines the Diamond Kick and Gesra plots, putting young Hoshino and friends at the center of the action, while suggesting Gesra is a product of Japan's polluted waters. The scenes of colorful, now bipedal Gesra destroying the dockside warehouses are very impressive. A great deal of elaborate miniature work was created for this episode. There's a familiar face guest star. This time it's Hisaya Ito as Diamond Kick the Smuggler, who had appeared in Ultra Q and was a veteran of numerous Toho classics, most notably Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. And Ultraman saves the day without firing an energy beam, a twist on the regular formula, demonstrating that our hero still has some surprises up his red and silver sleeve. For Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review, this is Mark Matzke reporting.
Three-headed monster battles Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan for mastery of the world. Men quake before the terror of their unleashed fury.
never to be forgotten. A new high in screen terror. The three-headed monster.
The Human Vapor. The strangest science fiction story ever told about man's deadliest enemy, the human vapor. Never before a power so dangerous. Never before an enemy so indestructible. Nothing on earth could stop him. The Human Vapor, half beast, half man.
Dr. Sano had said I'd be a Superman. Instead, he had created the human vapor. Now I should be grateful to our doctor, shouldn't I? He did not do as he intended. Yet he did give me supreme power now. I can have anything I choose. Destroy anyone I care to.
No prison bars could keep him in. No door could keep him out. The human vapor slips through every crack, through every opening, to terrify, to destroy, to kill. See the human vapor transform before your eyes from human form to vapor nightmare. The human vapor brings you a haunting legacy of fear, causing panic and riot and devastation. See this weird story of a superhuman power that menaces the world. Who can kill like an inhuman monster, but who loves like a man? Here for the first time, the most dangerous experiment in terror. See the disintegration of a human being into the deadliest vapor killer. Born of woman, but recreated by an evil science into an ectoplasmic horror to stagger your imagination. The human vapor will come to life and bring you the most terrifying experience in scientific history. The human vapor. Is he man or astroman? The human vapor in living color on the giant screen. The Human Vapor.
Hola, cabezones de Radio de los Niños Monstruos. Soy Kenny con un vistazo a monstruos famosos de la tierra del cine. The second part of Monsters from Mexico comes at the end of issue 122 in a 10-page article with 13 pictures. It begins with a synopsis of Dr. Satan from 1966, which featured zombies controlled by the title Doctor. Next comes a sequel, 1967's Dr. Satan and Black Magic. That is followed by a look at Autopsy of a Ghost, which imported John Carradine, Cameron Mitchell, and Basil Rathbone to appear with the man-child Chabelo. Chabelo is a famous Mexican TV personality who did a kids show advertising all types of junk food via silly games. Chabelo played the part of a squeaky-voiced boy well into his 80s, till he retired not too long ago. The film sounds crazy, as you can tell by its synopsis. In 1567, Canuto Perez committed suicide. His punishment was that he would not have eternal peace unless he finds a woman who falls in love with him and sacrifices her life. 400 years later, Satan generously provides him with 3 women, but he is rejected by each and every one of them, not because he was a ghost, but because they all have their own problems. The following day, all meet at the ghost house. Galena, a pretty woman who happens to be half insane, Susanna, a sassy and superstitious maid, Vitola, a female robot, Moleculo, a mad inventor, played by Cameron Mitchell, Satan himself, played by Basil Rathbone, and Chabelo, a spoiled child. A bank robber arrives to complicate matters, followed by an agent who calls himself 07½. The thief is also followed by a crooked mouthpiece and 2 cheaters who are looking for a sucker. An amnesiac heir steps in with the purpose of kidnapping the beautiful Galena. They all make fun of the devil, and in the midst of all the madness, there is only one sane woman, the Robotrix. She falls in love with and gives her life for the ghost at the very moment the inventor is performing a complicated algebraic autopsy of the ghost to disintegrate it. The atomic bomb of a Latin American country explodes by mistake. There is not time for further investigation, and immediately thereafter, the USA, Russia, Israel, France, and Red China believe they are being attacked and use their own nuclear bombs. Everything turns back to normal. Madness. The article continues with Batwoman from 1967, which features this production comment. Batwoman was shot in Acapulco, Mexico. It stars Mara Monte, a shapely Italian-Mexican actress whose battles with the Fishman monster made as many as 8 changes of her bikini necessary in one day of arduous shooting. "1968's Lady Death follows, which also imported John Carradine. Next comes brief mention of House of Madness, Super Zan and the Space Boy, and Devil's Women from 1972. A Mexican Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde gets a full synopsis, The Man and the Beast from 1972. Next, Walt Lee introduces a look at Luchador Movies with this comment. Masked wrestlers are extremely popular in Mexico, and many of them appear in both the arena and as movie heroes. In the 1957 movie Body Snatcher, Wolf Ravenskys played a wrestler who was killed and brought back to life with the brain of a gorilla. In his new body, he had large stitches on his head, ape-like fangs, and was incredibly strong. Later, Wolf Ravenskys played the black masked wrestler Neutron in a series of films including Neutron Against the Death Robots, Neutron and the Black Mask, Neutron Battles the Karate Assassins, Neutron vs. the Maniac, Neutron vs. the Amazing Dr. Caronte, Neutron Traps the Invisible Killers. About the same time Neutron got started, other masked wrestlers began appearing regularly in monster movies. Among the most popular are Santo, Blue Demon, and Mil Mascaras, 1,000 Masks. Other wrestlers who have appeared in horror adventure films are Angel, Blue Angel, Tinieblas, Darkness, Frankenstein, El Rayo de Jalisco, the Lightning of Jalisco, El Fantasma Blanco, the White Ghost, El Avispón Escarlata, the Scarlet Wasp. These wrestlers are somewhat like Batman in that, while they have no superpowers, their great strength, mental agility, and sheer daring give them the winning edge over even the most powerful supernatural creatures they might encounter. In many films, the wrestler appears in teams, as do the popular monsters. One group is called the Champions of Justice, and includes Blue Demon, Mil Mascaras, El Rayo de Jalisco, El Fantasma Blanco, El Avispón Escarlata. In one of their films, they battle a crazed scientist who turns rats into aggressive monsters by means of molecular transformation. The article concludes with a closer look at Neutron and Santo. A list of 28 Santo films is given. Monster Kids, we have a lot of work still. And Santo and Blue Demon vs. the Monsters is featured in a full synopsis. Hasta luego, amigos!
Name, Cornelius, adult chimpanzee, speaks English. Name, Zira, female chimpanzee, practices medicine. Name, baby Milo, infant chimpanzee, holds secret that can destroy mankind.
They come from an incredible planet of apes. They survived a war beneath the planet of apes. Now it's Earth 1973, and you're in for a surprise. Are they friendly visitors or invaders from the future? Why does the president's advisor want them shot? What is baby Milo's incredible secret? All the surprising answers are in Escape from the Planet of the Apes. All new from 20th Century Fox, rated G, all ages. Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Thank you. I've been standing there for centuries.
Yes, I suppose it seemed... Why, it's raining, but you're not wet.
No, I'm not, am I?
Where are you coming from?
I was watching a wonderfully terrifying double feature movie. I was a teenage Frankenstein and Blood of Dracula.
Oh?
Professor Frankenstein created a teenage monster to bring havoc and terror to all who meet him, but he left a few parts out, particularly in the poor lad's face.
May we change the
And the
subject?
vampire in Blood of Dracula, quite unfriendly except when hungry, than any friend will do for a few ghastly moments.
Please,
Oh, here's where I must leave you.
But there's nothing here but an old cemetery.
Yes, I know. I want to meet some old friends here. After you see I Was a Teenage Frankenstein and Blood of Dracula, you might drop back here. We'll discuss the pictures to some length.
Yes, I'll do that.
Hello, this is Rod Barnett. I'm the host of The Bloody Pit, the podcast that examines films from across the decades. On The Bloody Pit, we have several ongoing series of shows within the show focused on specific things in genre cinema that I and my co-hosts find fascinating. There's a long-running series focused on Italian maestro Antonio Margheriti's films from the 1960s all the way up through 1990. There's an on-again, off-again series focused on 1970s science fiction films. There's an in-depth look at the Western movies that William Castle made before he struck out on his own and became the horror auteur that we know and love. A look at the classic Coffin Joe films from Brazil. And our long-term project to look at every Universal horror film made in the 1940s. That's a long project, people. It's going to take us a long time. Sprinkled in amongst those are various other episodes focused on other stranger areas of cinema, like Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, and even some obscure British crime films from time to time. So join me and my rotating crew of co-hosts as we examine the stranger side of cinema through an exploitation lens. Except when we don't? Yeah, you never really know exactly what to expect on The Bloody Pit. So join me for The Bloody Pit.
This is Count Dracula, and I'm here to offer you a friendly warning. Derek and his guests often get excited, and occasionally this results in revealing key plot points of the movies they're discussing. You know how the children of the night, monster kids, can get sometimes. So consider yourself warned, and don't come begging to me to kill them for their transgressions afterward. I have more pressing issues to take care of, like that pesky Van Helsing.
Cinco de Mayo continues, not Cinco de Mayo. Lucha de Mayo continues here on Monster Kid Radio. Week 2, we're doing another Blue Demon film, and, well, it's technically a Blue Demon film. You know what? I'm going to let Tom Gurganus explain it to you a little bit more, because he's this week's guest. Tom, welcome back to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be. I'm on the Monster Kid Radio. I'm on the Monster Kid Radio. I'm happy to be back.
You know, I record all this stuff, right?
I know you do. Steve stole the classic 5 from me, so I'm putting my foot down on that one. I'm making my footprint. How are you doing, Derek?
I'm good, man. I'm doing good. And I'm excited to talk about this movie. This is actually one that you brought up outside of the context of Lucha de Mayo. We hadn't been talking about it specifically for a May film, but you brought it up in conversation on Facebook. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I don't have a lot of plans this May, so let's make it happen. I'm excited to talk about the movie, but I also want to know what's up with you, man. Go forth and game. That's still plugging along and rocking it, right?
Yeah. Actually, we were talking before we started recording, and I've dove back into it with both feet, and I was saying this is the 4th interview recording I've done this week. The 3 previous were for Go Forth and Game, one of which is you and I were talking about your gaming
endeavors, which will be out soon. So Monster Kids, look for that. And then a couple others on some games that came out on Kickstarter this week. One called Albadas, The Doors of Cartagena, and it's about door knockers of Cartagena, which is an interesting subject and actually a real true thing. So go check that out. And another one was called Chai Tea for Two, which is a nice little 2-player game where you're tea merchants. So that's what I've been doing this week, mostly.
So, yeah, it sounds like you're keeping busy. Still making time for luchadors, but you're keeping busy.
Always time for luchadors, man. You got to make room for your luchadors.
Oh, yeah.
Even though this one is barely creeps in on the luchador front, like you said, it's got Blue Demon in there, so there we go.
Yeah, technically.
Technically, it's a luchador movie. Technically, it has Blue Demon in it, but we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Oh, boy. Yeah, well,
So, if listeners remember in the past 2 times I was on, we talked about Bride of the Gorilla and the Zombies of Mortal, which I adore both of those movies. They're just amazing little low-budget films that I thought were fantastic. This one, I'm not as enamored with it as I was with those, but it has a weird, odd, interesting charm all of its own. And we haven't even mentioned the title of it yet. So here's what we're talking about today. Zovek and Blue Demon in The Invasion of the Dead.
See, I got really excited that you're going to say it in Spanish.
Yeah. Let's see. It's La Invasión de los Muertos.
Sure.
Zovek y Blue Demon.
Kenny
can correct me if
I don't
misspoke on that. But I think because I had a hard time finding a good print of this online.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I searched the Spanish title and was able to find an okay print. It was interesting because it was subtitled in, I think, Danish, and then had English subtitles on top of that.
Ooh. When you brought it up, I had it on an old hard drive because this movie has actually been on my radar for a very long time. Back when I was doing the Mail Order Zombie podcast, I actually considered tackling it because I knew it dealt with, well, it's the Invasion of the Dead. It's got zombies in it, right? So I was going to talk about it back in the Mail Order Zombie days and just never got around to it. When you brought it up, I was like, oh, that movie sounds familiar. I wonder if I still have it. And I searched through a handful of different hard drives, the ones that haven't failed on me over the years. And miraculously, I had it only in English subtitles. Didn't have any of that extra stuff. So I don't know where I got it from. I just know that I picked it up at some point along the way.
Right.
And now I've got it. So that's what I watched.
Good for you, because the copy I originally saw was on a Roku channel of some sort, and it was a much better print than what's out there right now that you can find on YouTube or even on the like the Spanish YouTube kind of things. There's one very nice print out there, but it's only in Spanish. I could not get it to have subtitles that made sense. It was doing the auto subtitling in English from the Spanish, and it was mostly gibberish. I mean, it was real words, but they were real words that did not have anything to do what was going on with the screen in the movie.
Okay.
It was frustrating because the print was pretty good. So, listeners, just letting you know ahead of time, if you go out and you want to watch this movie, it may be hard to find unless you speak Spanish. If you speak Spanish, you're not going to have a problem. But I found one, I watched it again, and we're going to talk about it.
And what happened after you watched it again, Tom?
What happened after I watched it again? I slept overnight on it, and then this morning I messaged Derek and apologized for making him watch this movie because I felt guilty about it. It's not a great movie, but it is a fun movie. I saw one place where they referred to it as the Mexican Plan 9. So go into it with that idea.
Yeah, I get this message from Tom's like, man, I am so sorry. We can do another movie. I can just watch it in the afternoon right before we record. I'll make it work. Like, no, Tom, it's all right, man. It's all good. No, actually, let me take that back. You started the message with, what's the policy on movies that we don't like on Monster Kid Radio? Oh, man.
But you also brought back out that there are some charming things about this movie. And honestly, there's some sequences in the movie that are really good. There's a couple of them, and we'll get into that in just a second.
Well, we'll do all that, but we got to play a round of the Classic Five first, right?
The Classic Five!
It would not be Monster Kid Radio without the Classic Five.
It's a game that we play on every episode of Monster Kid Radio. We're going to draw 5 cards from this deck that I have here. Each one of these cards has a this or that, which movie do you prefer style question. There are no wrong answers. It's just a way to get Monster Kids talking. Tommy, you ready to play?
Always ready to play.
First card right off the top. Oh, it's a hammer card.
Ooh.
Which movie do you prefer? The Vampire Lovers, Lust for a Vampire, or Twins of Evil?
Okay, I have not seen Lust for a Vampire yet. I recently watched The Vampire Lovers for the second time. I didn't realize I had seen it before. But out of those 3, I think I like Twins of Evil best.
The coffin opens and terror reaches out from beyond the grave. As the Twins of Evil evoke the power of vampirism and witchcraft.
Twins of Evil. They use the satanic power of their bodies to turn men and women into their blood slaves.
Twins of Evil.
Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Cushing's playing a little bit different kind of character, and he's really very, very good in it.
Well, like I said, there are no wrong answers, but that's definitely one of the right ones. So, Lust for a Vampire is pretty notorious for being the lesser of the 3. I'll just say that.
Yeah, The Vampire Lovers was good.
It's really good.
And Ingrid Pitt's in that. Cushing's in that too. But, Cushing's performance in Twins of Evil, just out of that 3, that makes it the best of the 3.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's fantastic, even though Cushing's a terrible person in it.
Right.
His character is anyway, yeah. So, all right, card number 2. What's your favorite Vincent Price film?
Last Man on Earth.
Wow, you answered that quick.
Part of it is because that is the best adaptation of the Matheson story, in my opinion. But I will say he really captured the character well, and he really pulls off the loneliness and the sadness of the character remarkably in that. I mean, you really feel that in this movie, how devastated he is by everybody around him dying.
Okay.
That one, I would say, in second, a very close second place is probably one of the Dr. Phibes movies. I really like his performance in Last Man on Earth. I think it's a very underrated movie.
Okay. Card number 3.
What about you?
Oh, you're going to make me answer this.
I'm going to make you answer too. I'm a podcaster too, so.
Thing about Vincent Price movies is it's one of those scenarios, and I say this a lot, it really kind of depends on which one I've seen most recently, because they're all so good. Vincent Price did not know how to turn in a performance that I didn't enjoy watching. Even something like Witchfinder General, where he's a terrible, terrible person in that film, somebody you do not want to spend any more time with, he does it so well.
Yep. I almost answered Haunted Palace because of that.
Yeah, Haunted Palace, he's great. This may change, but right now, I'll go House of Wax right now. House of Wax, yeah.
Oh, that's so good. He's fantastic in that.
All right, card number 3. What kaiju would make a good sports team mascot?
Manda. I think that would make an interesting looking logo. Yeah. Because you could wrap the body around like the first letter of the name like they do in some of... Yeah. I would go with Manda.
What sport would it be a mascot for?
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was your answer. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a sport. I'm not a big sports person. Well, you're in Japan. If it's kaiju and you're talking about that, then let's say baseball.
I was going to say probably baseball then.
Yeah. I was going to say cornhole, but
Cornhole is not something we have all across the country.
Yeah, I know.
I know what it is because I've listened to podcasts from your part of the country for years, and it comes up, and everybody always makes a joke out of it. But no, it is a legitimate game. It's not nearly as it sounds.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is a professional cornhole player and is making a living at it.
Wait a minute. That's a real thing too?
It's a real thing too. Yeah, he's got sponsors and everything. So there you go. It's like bass fishing, that kind of thing.
Oh my, wow, my mind just blew up.
Yeah, I figure maybe when I retire, I'll be a professional cornhole player because I have an in. Somebody who can train me.
Wow. All right.
They just got back from Las Vegas this past weekend playing cornhole. Yeah,
wow.
So hey,
All
Frank,
right.
I know you'll never listen to this, but hey.
All right.
Anyways,
card number
4, yeah.
Favorite actor to play Dr. Frankenstein?
Favorite Dr. Frankenstein? Ooh, that's an interesting one. Cushing comes to mind immediately, but I just watched Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, and he's truly despicable in that, which, that's a good actor, but Gene Wilder.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How about that? I haven't watched Young Frankenstein in a while, but I really, and maybe it doesn't count because it's Frankenstein. He does embrace his past in the movie. I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. So the fifth question, I'm not pulling from the deck. This is something that I'm going to ask everybody during Lucha de Mayo.
Okay.
The Luchadors fought a variety of monsters over the years.
Yep.
What's one monster that you'd like to see them fight that they hadn't had a chance to yet?
Well, I mean, immediately the creature comes up, but people say the Cyclops one is the creature, but I'm not going to go with that. I want to think something a little different. Maybe they have, and I just haven't watched it yet. Giant insects, and correct me if I'm wrong. Have they fought any giant insects? Is there a Santo versus Tarantula or something like that?
I can't think of any off the top of my head. But I'm always pleasantly surprised when this time of year comes around because I always find movies that I've never seen before, so I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, the Luchador aficionados can correct me if I'm wrong.
There we go.
There we go.
Fair enough. All right, well, that is the classic 5. Let's get back to this movie. Zovek and Blue Demon, The Invasion of the Dead.
Yes.
A movie that was, I think, shot around the same time as Zovek's first film.
Some of the scenes were shot at the same time. So I think this movie actually borrows some footage from the previous one, and/or they split some of the footage between the two movies, because the nightclub scene is the exact same nightclub with the exact same patrons that are in The Incredible Professor Zovek, which was the first movie. And the water chamber escape that he did in the first movie, the box for it is right next to the escape that he does in this movie. So those scenes were filmed at the same time.
So I want to talk about Zovek before we get into the film itself, because I think what's going to happen here is Tom and I are going to have a good time talking about the movie and kind of laughing our way through it. And I don't want anybody to feel bad at the end of this when we tell you that Zovek passed away before this film was completed. So I want to knock that out of the park, or knock that out of the way first.
Yes.
Zovek was an entertainer in Mexico, a stuntman, performer of outrageous stunts and feats, an escape artist. I don't think he was really like a magician, but he was like a fitness kind of guy. Didn't have his own show, but appeared on a lot of television in Mexico during his time, and would even do like worldwide tours and things.
Yep.
He would do these incredible stage productions, and something that he does in this movie that I didn't understand the first time I saw it, which does imply that I watched this movie more than once. I didn't understand this the first time I saw it. Before he does his big escape, he kisses the woman next to him. Now, I hadn't seen the first Zovek film, so I didn't know what was coming. I assumed that was a girlfriend or a wife. But then the hooded woman next to him comes over, and he lifts up her hood, and he kisses her.
Yep.
And then it happens a third time, and then he goes on. So apparently when he would do these performances, he would announce that he needed to feel the vibrations to perform these stunts. And he would get these vibrations by kissing pretty women.
Oh, wow.
So this was a regular thing that he would do in all of his performances.
Right.
So I would imagine if you were a fan of Zovek at the time, or you'd seen him on television and you saw this in a film, it made perfect sense. Whereas to me, I'm thinking, I want that job.
Yeah.
So, I just...
Yeah, the hooded ladies in the bikinis, which was very interesting.
Kind of a creepy look, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like one part swimsuit model, one part hooded executioner.
Yeah. Yeah. And then his helpers in that scene, this is the nightclub scene we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
His helpers in that scene are all dressed like luchadors, basically, but we don't ever see them get to fight.
So in a break in filming, he was doing a stunt to promote an appearance on television or something along those lines. It involves a helicopter, and he was dangling on a rope on a helicopter. Do you know many of the details here? I want to make sure I don't misrepresent here, but
I think actually he had been contracted to go over to Japan to appear on one of their big stunt type shows where they, just had stunt people on. And I only read this, and I think I read it in two different places. They had taken a break in filming, and he was helping a friend promote his circus by doing this stunt.
Well, the stunt involves a helicopter and him on a length of rope hanging off the helicopter. He was going to dismount from the rope when he gets close enough to the ground. And apparently it was even rehearsed, and it went well. And then when it was time to actually do it, the helicopter pilot later claimed that he thought Zovek had already gotten off the rope when he decided to veer off and go up, and Zovek's still on the rope and fell to his death, basically.
200 feet, yeah.
Broke several bones in his body, and he was pronounced dead in the hospital. I believe they got him that far.
Yes, that's correct. And this was during the filming of the film that we're talking about today. So that explains a whole lot about this movie.
Now, a big chunk of it was shot, enough to, I would think, maybe even make a short film out of just the Zovek stuff. But
I think so, too.
You don't put short films in the theaters. You want a feature film.
That's correct.
So what do we do? Well, the guy directing the film is a guy who's directed a ton of Luchador movies, René Cardona. And he reaches out to Blue Demon, I guess. I'm not sure how that conversation went. But he's like, hey, I need you to shoot some stuff for me. And this movie does feel unique in that it's a luchador movie with no wrestling matches.
Right. And the two main characters never meet.
They never meet. There's a weird conversation that happens on like the radio or telephone between the two, but it's a very one-sided conversation, meaning you see it from Blue Demon's side and you only know he's talking to Zovek because he's like, Zovek? Yes, I'll do this for you. So that's about it.
Yep. There's a helicopter in this movie also, which is very interesting because it's the same helicopter pilot flying the helicopter in this movie that was flying when the accident happened. But
creepy.
Really strange. But there's one scene where Blue Demon is looking up in the sky and sees the helicopter, and it's the same helicopter, and he sees it and it crashes. And then they cut to Zovek and, gosh, I've forgotten her name. It's Krista Linders, the actress.
Erica
are standing in front of a flaming, what's supposed to be the wreck of the helicopter, I'm assuming.
Right.
So they're not very far away from supposedly physically away from each other, but they never actually meet in the movie.
Yeah,
it was sad.
It's a weird way to stitch the movie together, but, they did what they did. I don't know what the plans were for the film, like what would have happened if this hadn't happened at all. I know Zovek was in the middle of a 9-picture deal.
Yep.
There were going to be 9 films featuring this guy doing the kinds of things that we've seen luchadors do, fighting monsters and aliens. And have you watched the first film? I have not.
I have not watched all of it. I watched the bits and pieces of it. And apparently, in my searching for a good copy of this movie, it appeared that there may be some ring footage of an actual wrestling match out there also. So either him or somebody posing as him actually, doing some luchador stuff.
Huh.
So I may look into that a little bit later.
So I wanted to get that out of the way because I didn't want to sound like we were being disrespectful, because we are going to laugh a lot with this movie.
Because it's fun.
It's a fun flick, and I don't want people to misinterpret our laughter for disrespect for somebody who passed away in a very unfortunate way.
Yes.
Especially, I mean, there's all sorts of rumors about what was really going on. Supposedly Zovek was training some military unit to do something, but that was never confirmed. It's weird.
Yeah. Seems like he was a very interesting guy. I mean, he was, you mentioned him being on television and stuff. Some of the things I mentioned, some of the stunts that he was doing is like, doing several thousand sit-ups nonstop and fitness kind of things like that. And again, he was apparently a very good escape artist, so he had a following and, was popular during his time, as witnessed by the 9-movie deal that he had cut with Cardona. It just was unfortunate that we lost him when we did. Who knows? Maybe he'd have been one of the champions of justice at some point in time.
Yeah, I could see it. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the film. It opens with a Bible quote, doesn't it?
It does.
Which I was not expecting.
Nope. It was a big narration sequence right at the beginning of the movie talking about basically that there are aliens out there and we should be watching for invasion. And then throws this quote from Genesis 22, which didn't seem to me to fit well, but, I guess René Cardona thought it did.
So somebody did.
Somebody did.
So this invasion, we don't really see the invasion. We see a fireball.
Right.
that is set on fire and rolled down a hill.
Basically, yeah.
Which, you know what? I thought that was kind of cool. I'm all in for that. I want to see more of that.
yeah. Here's a meteor.
Let's do it. You've got a couple of cops driving by, and they're going to check this thing out. And when they get out of the car to check it out, I don't know how much time passes, but eventually Zovek comes by on his motorcycle and sees the car there, and he answers the radio, says he's in the car, and they're like, Zovek, what are you doing here? And when this first starts, I'm thinking, okay, so Zovek's like a luchador. They all know who he is.
Right.
He helps the police, whatever. But then, is it gunshots that he hears?
Yeah, he hears gunshots.
So he takes off and he goes to look, and I guess the cops have shot something?
Or each other.
It's not really clear, is it?
It's not really clear, but he picks up one of the guns and, opens this revolver, takes the shells out, and they've been shot. So, yeah, somebody shot this gun somehow at something. And then we jump to Blue Demon.
Yep. And I don't know how far we are into the movie when this happens, but Blue Demon spends what felt like a good 15 minutes, and I didn't time it, and I'm sure it's not that long, but a very long time going on this spiel of all the weird stuff that's happened in the world regarding corpses.
Yep. Corpses and UFOs, yep.
Corpses and UFOs, mostly in the U.S.
Right. Tallahassee, Florida was mentioned specifically.
Tallahassee, Florida was mentioned. A few other places were mentioned, and he's got this assistant in the back. So I got to ask you, the assistant, played by Polo Ortin.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no reason whatsoever for this guy to be here.
No, I'm guessing he had a contract that needed to be filled out or something, or maybe he's a popular comedian or something at that time, and it was another way to bring people into the movie. But he was annoying.
In the past, and I brought it even last week, that we've talked about the big three of luchadors, right? Santo, Blue Demon, and Mil Mascaras. Mm-hmm. And we talk about Santo being Superman and Blue Demon being Batman.
Right.
Well, this guy, Robin, he is not.
No.
Okay? He is not a great sidekick. He really provides nothing.
No, he's like Herbie the Robot from Fantastic Four.
Oh, wow. This guy had been around since the 30s doing stuff.
Okay.
And he did a lot. But I suspect it's one of those things where us here up in the States don't really know much about him, had a chance to see him or whatever.
I'm guessing that's what it was. I would guess, because if he's not the third listed in the opening credits, he's the fourth listed in the opening credit. Well, maybe fifth, because Krista Linder's third. And I think he was listed along with someone else, Renee Rodriguez or something like that. So I'm betting that you're exactly right in that we just don't know who he is.
I'm looking at the movie poster that I used to create the cover art this week, and he is on the movie poster. His name, it's the last one on the movie poster, but it's there.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like he offered nothing to the story at all.
He hindered the story, in my opinion. Yeah.
He is just kind of along for the ride. At one point, Blue Demon even threatens to kick him out. Get out of here if you're not, just be quiet.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, yes, we're going to get rid of him. No, he sticks around to the end of the movie. And that's...
Yeah, he was definitely the comic relief of the movie and really wasn't very funny. So there's that.
I just think in terms of the story in the world, it's not like he served Blue Demon tea. It's not like he helped Blue Demon with his luchador suit or anything. Nothing. He was just kind of this bumbling guy that hung out with Blue Demon.
Yeah.
And Blue Demon tolerated it.
He's the snapper car.
Oh, no.
Well, maybe I'm dragging snapper car down. I don't know.
Oh, man.
But anyways... Yeah, he have nothing. And the interesting thing was, how did you like Blue Demon's headquarters?
I've seen better, but I've also seen worse.
That's true.
I kind of got the impression that this is one of those situations where they had Blue Demon for a very short period of time.
Yes.
And they found like a recording studio.
Right.
Like a little corner of a recording studio somewhere, turned on all the machines so the reel-to-reels were running in the background, and gave him a bunch of lines to say.
Yep. And it appeared to be in the bottom of a factory somewhere because they walked through a boiler room and something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's probably, it was maybe a 2-3 day shoot at the most.
Yeah.
He's only in that set, the headquarters set, and then 1 or 2 scenes outside. Yeah. Where he's
that's
fighting,
about it.
Where he's fighting. I think that's about it, yeah.
Even the fight scenes weren't... Whatever.
Blue Demon's brought in to assist in these, UFO sightings and the disappearances of these bodies.
The way he talks about them, I wanted to see more with the corpses. I mean, at one point he talks about how the corpses without heads get up and start walking around. I wanted to see that.
Please, that would have been so cool.
But we don't get to see it.
Oh, well. Well, when you remake it.
Oh, no. God, no.
So we have to get the background of what is kind of catalyzing a lot of this movie. So on this ranch somewhere in Mexico.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The ranchers found some pictographs on the wall of this canyon. It just so happens that the professor and his daughter are doing some research close by. So he says, hey, can y'all come check these out? And he tells them about them. And the daughter says, oh, I know someone we should bring in who'll know all about this, and enter Zovak. We get to go see the nightclub scene.
And I got real excited at this point because the minute they said Egyptian whatever, my brain went, oh, we're going to see some mummies. No.
Nope.
No mummies.
Would have been cool. Hey, it would have been really cool if his helpers had been dressed as mummies.
There you go. Oh.
That would have been cool. The escape from the Egyptian coffin was one of his really big. Zovak comes down and he's dressed in his Zovak costume, which is this gold shiny suit with the 70s cut down to the belly showing off his chest. And he's doing his big Zovak sign over his head with his fingers. And he's got his headband on, which is apparently a very big thing. And they truss him up in a straitjacket and put like about 20 or 40 chains on him, it looks like, and put him in this coffin and set it on fire. And so he has to escape.
Good thing he got those vibrations going because he was able to get out.
Boy, if he hadn't had those vibrations, it would have been barbecue time.
I know, right?
But he escapes, of course. He goes back to his dressing room, and the professor and Erica show up and say, hey, Zovak. And he's like, stop. I know why you're here. You're here about some pictographs on the side of the thing, and I know all about it because my Tibetan Lama taught me this. And it gets into some mysticism there. And apparently he was trained by Tibetan Lamas. And, we get that kind of thing. And he's like, of course I'm going to help you. Because he read their minds.
Yeah, I forgot to mention he reads minds. Yeah, of course.
He reads minds too. So
of course he does.
Maybe that's some of the vibrations.
Is that it?
I guess maybe. He can definitely read somebody's mind while he's kissing them, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
That's just my guess. I don't read minds, so I don't know how that works.
You're not able to get those vibrations going?
Not those mind waves, no.
Yeah, not like that, no. So yeah, he's brought in to help figure out what's going on. And the pictographs show what? Some sort of alien... Do the pictographs tip him off?
He knows exactly what's going on with the pictographs. So
since he's there, it's like, yeah.
Well, he says, they're oh gosh, there was a big long thing. Hold on, I got notes about this somewhere. There's something to do with the earth and water and fire, and air is missing, so it means that things are out of balance, and that means there's a cataclysm coming. But I don't know if he actually says something about aliens at this point.
I forgot. Yes, he does kind of go through like the missing element. So, whew.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, while all this is happening, we occasionally will go back and check in with Blue Demon.
Yep.
Blue Demon becomes a bigger presence toward the end of the film. But for the most part, it's Zovak action with the occasional appearance of Blue Demon.
Right.
So just as you're about to fall asleep watching Zovak, Blue Demon will show up.
Well, you get this explanation about this calamity, and you're thinking, okay, that's interesting. And one of the next things they do is they cut to a meteor. And, here we get another fireball coming in. And this one's actually done a lot better, I think.
Yeah,
it looked like it was actually on a wire coming out of the sky, and it crashes, and there's smoke and explosion. And then while the smoke clears away, there's this great big round mysterious object, black object. And then we cut back to Blue Demon.
Yeah.
and we get some Blue Demon for a couple minutes. Oh, and then we cut back to Zovak, and there's a storm. This is where we get some really cool scenes, though.
It does. I'm sitting here giggling to myself, but when you and I were talking earlier, and you were talking about maybe picking a different movie, and I said this movie's got some charm, this is where I started to really get excited.
Yeah. It's nighttime, there's a rainstorm, and we cut to a cemetery. And we get the dead coming back to life at this point. So the cemetery, all the graves start opening up, and it's shot at night with some interesting lighting in the long shots across the graveyard. And you get, the dead people walking through the graveyard, and it's really eerie. It looks really cool.
It does look really neat. The makeup isn't fantastic.
Right,
they don't look all bloody and gory and all that, but it still looks really cool. You get that many zombies or that many dead people walking around at once.
Yep.
Especially the way they were moving. They had kind of I was going to say dead look to them, but that's exactly what they were. They have
shambling
this
around, yeah.
Yeah, it really reminded me of the movie The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, or Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. The way they kind of move around a little bit.
Right.
And man, you got the rain going. Oh man, I was flashing back to my mail order zombie days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was having a good time with it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool.
Well,
we're about to see full on zombie attack.
Yep. And to me, it reminded me a lot of Night of the Living Dead.
Yep.
Because you get a graveyard scene with the dead coming back. This one was actually potentially a little more creepy because it is happening during a rainstorm at night. And so you've got that whole setting going on, and the way it's shot, it with that long shot in particular, the camera's set up a little bit higher, like 12 or 14 feet, and set way back with some lighting coming in, silhouetting some of the zombies and the apparently very old graveyard with some really cool looking headstones and tombs and stuff.
Yeah,
it was really, really well done. I thought that to me was the best scene of the movie. And you're right. I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Now we're getting into some Invasion of the Dead stuff.
Kind of.
You're like, okay, why are the dead rising? Exactly. Because we don't really know why. They are, and that's cool, but there's no real explanation. And as things go on, you learn that it's this mysterious object that crashed that's somehow doing that, bringing them back to life and directing them to kill people.
Well, and as the movie continues, that's the thing. As the movie gets really foggy at this point for me.
Right.
Because it's a lot of running away and running around these big crowds of dead people walking around.
Right.
Or being super surprised when you're sitting in a vehicle with somebody who's not dead. You look away, you look back, and they're a zombie now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that too, like this instant zombification. But that's something I've never seen before, where it just happens immediately like that.
Right.
And that gave me a little bit of a charge. I think that's actually kind of neat and really kind of amps up the paranoia. It's bad enough if somebody that you recognize as a living human being isn't living at all.
Right.
But make it even worse by sitting in a vehicle or sitting next to somebody who you're having a conversation with, and then 30 seconds later, they have switched.
Yeah.
And that idea is just terrifying. It goes beyond the whole identity horror that you get with typical American zombie movies.
Right.
And I really appreciated that.
You see that in a couple of different places in this movie. There's some surprising stuff that they do with it. And I'm going to mention that in a second. But with the dead people coming back, the first attack of the dead happens at the camp that Zovak and the professor have set up. But they're not actually there at the time. So it's the helpers, and they're talking on the radio to Zovak when the zombies come and attack him, and he hears some shots or something and then goes running off, and he runs down there, and the guys are dead. And so he's walking around trying to figure out, and they come back to life while he's there, and he's like, oh, what in the world? And they're fighting. Here are these guys who he had hired to, take care of the camp and do archaeology or something. And now they're coming back alive. And then later in the movie, the rancher who originally found the pictographs and who's, been helping them out, he gets killed by the zombies and comes back. And then the really surprising one, spoiler alert, Zovak and Erica are flying around in a helicopter, which surprisingly, Erica knows how to fly a helicopter.
Which you don't typically see in these movies. Typically, the women are not.
I mean, she doesn't do a whole lot else in the movie except run around. But they see her father laying on the ground from the helicopter, and they land the helicopter. She goes over, runs over and to make sure he's all right. And she's like, oh no. And then he opens his eyes. And we're like, oh yeah, and he's got the basic zombie makeup that you see. He's darkened around his eyes and maybe a little bit under his cheek, to bring syncify his cheeks a little bit. And so here we go with Zovak and Erica running for 20 or 30 minutes off and on from hordes of zombies. We see a lot of that.
When we don't see that, we see Blue Demon.
Oh yeah,
and his buddy. Also getting involved, right?
The interesting thing that surprised me, and I had completely forgotten about this until I watched it last night, is there's all of a sudden we've seen the zombies walking around and then they cut, and there's these soldiers walking across the field, and you're like, oh, okay, so the government's going to start working on the zombies. No, two monster guys pop up and kill the soldiers. There's this werewolf guy and this other guy with the hairy, he's not quite a werewolf looking thing. Where in the world did they come from?
It's the middle of the day.
Yes.
Okay. The moon's not up, but there's a werewolf looking dude, and then a guy who looks like he's maybe in mid transformation, but not.
Right. Yeah.
They just show up, and this is who Blue Demon spends a lot of time fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really just fighting. There's maybe like one or two of Blue Demon's signature wrestling moves, but that's about it. Most of it's just chops across the chest.
Right. Yeah. So.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, monsters! All of a sudden, okay, maybe we're going to get some monsters some more. Well, no, they just pop in, they kill these soldier guys, and then later on they pop back up, and Blue Demon throws them around a couple times. But the soldier guys come back as zombies, and Blue Demon gets to fight them too.
True.
So there was that. I mean, we got to see Blue Demon with a lot of solo action at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they kind of had to because they...
Well. Yeah.
Gosh, I feel bad even laughing about it.
One of the most interesting things that I had never seen before in a zombie movie is the zombie flying the helicopter.
I thought that was neat. That was neat.
They're running from this horde of zombies, and the helicopter lands, and it's the helicopter pilot guy, and so they climb in with him, and wait a minute, he's a zombie, and they jump out, and he goes flying off, and they're running from this giant 40 or 50 horde of zombies running down this big road somewhere in Mexico, and he's dive bombing them with the helicopter as they're running. I'm like,
it's kind of exciting, right?
Yeah. I was like, wow, I hadn't seen that before. George Romero didn't think about this in any of his sequels. He should have had people flying helicopters or zombies flying helicopters. And it gets better. You alluded to this earlier. So they're running and they get out to this road. They've run away from most of the zombies. They get out to the road. Here comes a truck. It stops and picks them up. And they're like, we got to get to the authorities, on and on like this. And the guy's driving and suddenly we realize, hey, this guy's a zombie. And Zovak is like fighting him because he's trying to run them, crash them into the other cars coming the other way. And Zovak keep him from getting crashed. He's fighting with him, struggling over the steering wheel. And then we cut to Erica, and Erica gets this little puzzly look on her face. And then we see her reach over. She just reaches over and cuts the car off.
I loved that. Yeah,
that
she's
was
like,
great.
While the boys are fighting, I'm just going to take the keys out of the ignition.
Yeah, just took the keys out of the ignition. The truck pulls over to the side of the road, and they jump out and start running away.
There is one thing that happens in here that I had seen before.
Yeah.
In terms of what I've seen since. I don't know if that makes sense. There's a gag in the zombie classics, Shaun of the Dead, where the characters get away by pretending to be zombies and blending in with the crowd. That happens in this movie.
Yes, it does.
I was surprised to see that happen. Now, I'm not saying Shaun of the Dead ripped this movie off.
So Simon Pegg knows who Zovak is.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised,
I would not be surprised at all.
Now that we said that out loud. But, yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
It was the only cool thing that happened with this sidekick guy.
True.
That seems very much like an Abbott and Costello bit to me, or something that would have happened in that time frame also,
That's a good point.
In the day.
Yeah, I don't think it's unique to this. I'm sure it's been done since.
But it was a cool little touch.
It's the only thing that I really appreciated that character for. Now, why he was out there in the zombies to begin with, Blue Demon should have just left him at home.
I think maybe he's holding something over Blue Demon's head. He's got some trash on Blue Demon, and he's like, I won't tell anybody if you'll let me be your sidekick.
I won't tell everybody who you really are, or what you look like under that mask.
That's right. He's got a picture of Blue Demon without his mask. And the only thing he can think of using it for is to be Blue Demon's annoying sidekick.
I just want to hang out with you, man.
That's right. And then we get some more narration at the end. We get a closing narration, too.
We do.
And this is translated, so I don't know how close it is, but it says, we'll never find out what it's about and will remain ignorant of the hidden messages we are being sent. We've been shown that the planets that surround us are uninhabitable, and perhaps that's why this time beings from these planets in some part of the world are invading us, and whose appearances are the same as ours. So they look just like us. They're your friend, your neighbor, or perhaps the person sitting next to you right at this moment. Dun, dun, dun.
So there was one website that paraphrases a quote from Cardona himself about this movie, basically saying that he was trying to create the atmosphere of the invasion of the body snatchers with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You have seen the same website, haven't you?
I have, because there's about 4 websites that talk about it.
Yeah, and that's about it.
Yep. It's like I mentioned earlier before we started recording. this podcast may be the most that anybody's ever talked about this movie before at one time.
Yeah. And maybe that quote there at the end is the closest it gets to body snatches for me.
Yep.
With the whole, he may be sitting right next to you, that sort of thing. And I guess Plan 9 does that too at the end, right? As you're walking home, that person in the dark, could he be? Yeah.
I think that Cardona, he made a movie that's much closer to Plan 9 in theme than Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Almost identical in the fact that you've got this alien thing that comes down and causes the dead to come back to life. And that's going to be one way that the aliens are defeating the humans to invade our world.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, one of the websites called this the Mexican Plan 9. So.
Oh boy. You know what? Okay. So we're laughing about it. We're kind of deriding parts of it and all that. But there are moments that got me to really pay attention.
Yeah.
What would have happened if Zovak hadn't passed away and they made more movies? I don't know. I don't know where they were going with it. But there's some really interesting bits here. The zombies, especially when they're getting up and about. What I like about it is that it's so matter-of-fact nonchalant. There's no spooky music or anything like that. It just kind of happens.
Yep.
And that, to me, is more terrifying than anything you could have done with the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
It's so mundane and commonplace that, oh, no,
I did not notice that before, but now that you mention it, there's not much soundtrack in this movie, is there?
There's not a lot. Yeah, the music in these movies sometimes is a little like broken down ice cream truck. It sounds like. But there's not a lot in this one that stood out to me. And when the zombies are out walking around, they don't have a bunch of moaning. There's not a lot of shuffling. It's just, they just are there. They're
a relentless force kind of thing.
And that's how I like my zombies.
Yeah. I was going to mention there's another really cool scene at the beginning when the zombies first show up. After they attack the camp, one of them escapes or something, and he follows them into some caves. And the zombies walking around in the caves with, that nice stereotypical cave lighting that you see in a lot of movies. That was some creepy stuff right there too. I mean, he tussles with them a little bit, and they push him off the cliff into the river. But there were some really creepy looking scenes in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the good creepy stuff involved the zombies when they first come out. And then there's some of the scenes with the zombies chasing them. We mentioned it before, but there's a crowd of them. They've got 50 or 60 people in the horde behind them, chasing them along. That looks really impressive. I mean, that's how you want your zombies. You want a big bunch of them just kind of, coming at you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice crowd. They all managed to stay on the road.
Yeah.
So there's like one or two shots where if they had just zoomed in a little bit more, you wouldn't see the fact that nobody was getting off the street, off the dirt road. But still, there's so many of them, and there's a couple shots where our heroes are surrounded by them.
Yes,
and it's effectively, I'm going to say creepy. I don't know if I'll go full on scary, but it's effectively creepy.
Yeah, there's some places where there was a lot of promise that just never came to fulfillment in this movie. If they had been able to focus a little more on the and again, we don't know what was going to happen if Zovak had not been lost. It would be a very different movie potentially if they had been able to fully shoot everything that was in the script, I think. And it would not be as hodgepodge and choppy as it is because they have to cut back and forth to get Blue Demon in there. It would just be interesting to know more about him. It would have been really cool to see the other, 6 films or 7 films that he potentially could have made.
Yeah, and knowing this one it's the Invasion of the Dead, right? It's all creepy, spooky. So yeah, I would have loved to have seen more.
We could have done a sequel to it because he kind of alludes to it that there may be the same things happening in other parts of the world.
Yep.
So the authorities find out, hey, Zovak knows what's going on. So here goes Zovak in Paris, fighting French zombies.
I love the movies that we talk about here on the show, especially when it's like a flat-out monster thing, right? Yeah. Or alien thing, because it sparks so much of my imagination. And I like living in that weird place in my head where I could be thinking about current events. I could be thinking about, I don't know, where I'm going to move next. I could be thinking about any kind of real-world issue. No, I'd rather imagine what Zovak would be fighting if he had made 9 movies.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I want to live. Oh, man. Well, there is still a Zovak supposedly running around. He had children.
Yes, he did.
And one of the websites, probably the same one that you saw, showed that he had like 4 kids, and one of them is still performing as Zovak.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm just saying, you know, there's a Blue Demon Jr., there's a Santo Jr., apparently there's a second generation Zovak. We've got all the ingredients.
There you go.
And Milt Mascaris is still running around doing stuff. So we've got...
Here we go. We got our Batman Beyond version of the Champions of Justice.
Yeah.
I love it. That would be great.
I love that so much. So that's the movie.
Yep, that's the movie, folks.
Happy Lucha de Mayo.
Yeah, you should go check it out. I mean, we made a lot of fun of this movie, but it's a fun movie. It's got some really cool stuff in it. It's got some charm, and you know, you should check it out.
It does have some charm. It is a luchador movie. Technically, it's mostly a Zovak movie with some Blue Demon padding, right. But you know,
yeah, I'll take that, and it's got some cool zombie stuff in it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's what I want. Cool zombie stuff, some luchadors. I'm in.
Cool.
That's all I need.
I was remiss that I forgot to mention something that very, very significant that happened this week, and I need to mention that. And that's that, Derek, congratulations for being inducted into the Monster Kid Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yep. I'm very happy that happened, and I know it's been out there on the Twitters and the Facebook, but now it's also in the podcast. So
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I actually recorded with Rod Barnett earlier.
Cool.
Today for his podcast, and we were kind of joking back and forth about, you know, you got to refer to me as Hall of Famer now and blah,
That's
blah,
right.
blah. But, you know, the truth is I'm still pretty overwhelmed by the whole thing. I don't know what to say or think about it yet. It hasn't sunk in. So, you know, even though I was kind of playing it up a little bit over on Rod's show, in reality, man, I
well,
I got nothing.
Rondo's got a brother now, so now you
got nothing.
Got your bookends.
Oh man.
So that's really awesome. I'm really, really happy for you. I think it's a really great thing, and I'm glad that we were able to honor you like that. It's really cool.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yep. Well, and let's mention a couple of other quick things just because they're on my mind because we talked about them for my podcast recently. Your gaming stuff is really starting to pick up. So Dice Monster Dice is really starting to get out there a lot more. So congratulations on that too.
Thank you. Yeah, Dice Monster Dice, Harsh Kingdom, that's all doing well. I launched Reading the Avengers last week.
I was going to mention that too.
I'm excited that that's picked up. I'm excited that I got it out. It hasn't gotten a lot of momentum yet, but I understand it's just one installment. So. Right.
You got a lot to go through too.
Oh yeah, and I can't wait, man. I'll be making YouTube videos till I'm like 80.
Yep.
Oh man, just gotta keep creating, cool, man. Keep creating. Yep.
And Monsters from the Public Domain did really, really well. So I'm super excited about that. So
now your episode that I'm on, or my episode that I'm on your show has not gone out yet. Is that right?
No, I'm editing it this week. It'll probably go out next week, which will be the week of May the 10th. Yes.
Well, please feel free to put a link to it in the Monster Kid Radio group. You know, mention it over there.
I will.
And I'm sure I'll mention it too at some point. But yeah, thank you for all of your support for all of my projects, not just this, but everything. So
hey, man, we gotta support each other.
Heck yeah.
All right. So, what's next?
I think that's it, man.
Flesh crawls, blood curdles,
The coffin hasn't been built that can hold him. Dr. Fives rises again.
Fives! Wait!
Dr. Fives rises again in an even more startling motion picture with a whole new gallery of gruesome gimmicks of torture and murder. See the scorpion's embrace, the eagle's caress, the sausage machine. See Dr. Fives outduel his enemies with the most diabolical devices ever created. See Dr. Fives rises again, starring Vincent Price as the menacing Fives and Robert Quarry as the evil Biderbeck. Dr. Fives rises again. All new from American International Pictures. Rated PG, parental guidance suggested. Dr. Fives rises again.
The House of Wax, the ultimate dimension in terror, comes to the screen in Stereovision 3D. Vincent Price at his diabolical best will take you room by terrible room on a journey to the ultimate chamber of horrors. Stereovision 3D will synthesize before your eyes the terrifying reality of it all. In Stereovision 3D, House of Wax is more than a movie. It's an experience you'll never forget.
I am Dr. Lee Cushing. Welcome to my Chamber of Horrors.
Dr. Cushing's Chamber of Horrors is a serialized monster rally novel in the tradition of the classic Universal and Hammer horror films. It's written by Stephen D. Sullivan, the award-winning author of White Zombie, Daikaiju Attack, Manos, The Hands of Fate, and the original Chill role-playing game.
My goal is to recreate the thrills of the Monster vs. Monster films that we all love. We'll have vampires, werewolves, mummies, psychic twins, and scheming madmen. And that's just in the first storyline.
Now you can get Dr. Cushing's Chamber of Horrors and other monster stories sent directly to your email for as little as $1 a month. For just $2, you'll get all the chapters in advance, plus bonus stories and other perks. Sign up now at CushingHorrors.com or visit sdsullivan.com for a Patreon link.
I do hope you've enjoyed your visit. Please come again. And remember, the chamber is always waiting for its next victim.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Monster Kid Radio. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing the post, retweeting tweets, and just letting people know about the podcast here. I want to thank everybody for all of your support, whether you are downloading the show, leaving honest reviews, or just, participating on Facebook, on Twitter, in the Monster Kid Movie Club showings, whatever it is you do. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody having my back as well. Tom brought up the Monster Kid Hall of Fame thing, and I'm going to say it again. I still do not know what to say about that. I'm still putting my thoughts together. So you can expect some sort of official video. I need to put it together here soon so I can get it off to David Colton over at the Rondo Awards. So he's got a video to show at the ceremony since I won't be there in person. But still, I don't know what I'm thinking about it yet. I just am still pretty blown away. So thank you if you were involved in making that happen. Anyway, let's get back to the podcast itself. We are 2 weeks into Lucha de Mayo, which means, we've got 2 weeks to go. What are we going to talk about next week? Well, I'm still looking for a Bill Moskeris film for Frank Children and I to talk about here on the show. The problem that we keep running into, and I've mentioned it before, I'll say it again, is that a lot of these luchador movies, the bigger ones, they do end up getting subtitled or even sometimes dubbed releases up here in the States. Sometimes it's a fan job, but they get done. Once you start digging a little deeper, you start running into an issue where you don't have any subtitles at all. And the movie's only available in Mexican, or I'm sorry, that's terrible to say. The movie's only available in Spanish. You know what I meant. The downside is that I don't speak Spanish. Frank Children doesn't speak Spanish. Most of the people I have on the show don't speak Spanish. I know Kenny does, and he helps provide translations when he can. The thing is that on the one hand, it's easy to say that, we all can speak the international language of lucha. It also would be really nice to know what they're saying in the movie. So Frank and I are still trying to work that out. In the meantime, though, Chris McMillan is signed up. He has stepped up to be part of the show next week. He and I are going to talk about the 1968 movie, The Batwoman. No, it's not your traditional luchador film. However, there are wrestlers involved, and the woman does wear a mask, so you know what? We're going to talk about the Batwoman next week. It's directed by René Cardona. He's the guy that did a lot of luchador movies. It counts, right? It's my show. I make the rules. Anyway, that's going to be coming up next week. You can keep up with Monster Kid Radio over on Facebook by looking up the Facebook page or Facebook group. You can also find us on Twitter, on Discord, and on Reddit, and on the weekends in the Monster Kid Movie Club, where we show anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of monster movies all day long. It starts at 11 a.m. Pacific, and then that's the pre-show. The movies themselves start around noon, and then it goes until we're done. And this weekend, we're doing nothing but John Carradine movies. You're welcome to join us. Please head over to monsterkidmovie.club or just go to twitch.tv and look up Monster Kid Radio and join us. We have a live chat going. There's a giveaway. Usually we give away something. This weekend we're going to be giving away another Monster Kid Radio t-shirt from the T Public Shop, which you can find at tinyurl.com/MKR t-shirt. It's a good time. It's free. Come for one movie, come for them all. Hang out with your fellow Monster Kids. You can meet a number of Monster Kid Radio personalities, personas, people, regulars, irregulars, whoever, the guests. A lot of them hang out in the chat, so we'd love to have you join us there. And then on Tuesday, we do the same thing for a limited period of time. We do science fiction movies from like 3:30 till around 8 o'clock, and then we talk about a Star Trek episode with Jeff Polier. So please feel free to join us there as well. Same deal, same live chat. It's just a lot of fun. So feel free to join us there. I'm trying to think of anything else coming up for Monster Kid Radio. Nothing is really coming to mind. However, I did get a message on Facebook from somebody about an event coming up in about a month that I got really excited about. Let me see if I can find that real quick without, boring you too much. Okay, so this comes from listener of the show, Ingrid. Turns out, there is a Rod Serling event happening online from UCLA, and Rod Serling's daughter, Ann Serling, will be involved. This is a free event. What it's going to be is a night of, or a day, I guess it starts at 4 p.m. Pacific, so an afternoon of a number of Rod Serling videos or films. There's going to be his Emmy acceptance speech from 1964 for winning an Emmy for his short, I guess, is it a film or episode of the Chrysler Theater, It's Mental Work. We're going to see the actual short, It's Mental Work. That's going to be coming up as well on that. And like I said, it is free. It is with Eventbrite. I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes, but just head over to eventbrite.com and then do a search for Rod Serling. I don't think this is like a live chat or anything like that, but I mean, this will be cool. It's Ann Serling talking about her dad. How awesome is that? And we're going to see some stuff from Rod Serling that you don't normally see. Again, link in the show notes. And Ingrid, thank you for sending me a link to this. I really appreciate it and letting me know about something I need to sign up for. Oh, I should tell you when it is. It's on June 3rd, which is a Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific. So it doesn't interfere with the Monster Kid Movie Club or the podcast, so you know I'm going to be there. Oh yeah, I'll be there. UCLA has been doing some pretty cool things online for free through Eventbrite. They showed not too long ago, or I guess it was a little while ago now, a television movie version of The Screaming Skull, but really it's nothing like The Screaming Skull that you and I know. It was also really cool to see that. Just really fascinating stuff. And, you know, listeners, if you come across anything that you think Monster Kids might be interested in joining or participating in or going to or whatever, feel free to send it to me either on Facebook or through one of our various contact channels.
You can call and leave a voicemail for Monster Kid Radio at 503-810-5MKR. That's 503-810-5657.
Or you can send an email to the podcast. monsterkidradio@gmail.com is the email address. That's monsterkidradio@gmail.com.
And then what I can do is share it with the rest of the listeners here on the show. All right, I already told you what's coming up next week with the Batwoman, Chris McMillan, so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap up by letting you know that Monster Kid Radio is a registered service mark of Monster Kid Radio LLC. All original content of Monster Kid Radio by Monster Kid Radio LLC is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 3.0 unported license. Of course, that doesn't apply to the song A Taste of Blood. That is copyright 2010, The Dead Elvi. You can find it on their album, A Taste of Blood, by the Dead Elvi. You can find it on places like Amazon, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you can download or listen to music. Look them up. Let them know that Monster Kid Radio sent you. My name's Derek M. Cook. I'm going to send this out before I screw up and have to actually edit anything from the intro and the outro, because so far I haven't had to do that yet. Talk to you guys next week. Adios.
If I